The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
At that time, so many people were crowding together that they were trampling one another underfoot. And Jesus began to speak first to his disciples. Beware of the leaven, that is, the hypocrisy of the Pharisees. There's nothing concealed that will not be revealed. There's no secret that will be known. Therefore, whatever you have said in the darkness will be heard in the light. And what you whisper behind closed doors will be proclaimed on the housetops. I tell you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but after that can do no more. I shall know whom you fear. Be afraid of the one who, after killing, has the power to cast you into Gehenna. Yes, I tell you, be afraid of that one. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 small coins? Yet no one of them has escaped the notice of God. Even the hair of your head have all been counted. Do not be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
You know, to properly understand what we just read, maybe good to put it in the context of what happened before, which is what we were reading yesterday. And yesterday we were this whole thing of Jesus. This is now Luke chapter 11, the end of chapter 11, when he's really kicking it up a notch and being a little bit more forthcoming and perhaps even stronger in how he speaks against the Pharisees and the scribes and if you recall yesterday, he's pretty much charging them with the blood of the prophets, your ancestors, and he's kicking it up a notch. And then if you read what says at the end of chapter 11 of the Gospel of Luke, says the following: when Jesus left, the scribes and Pharisees began to act with hostility towards him and to interrogate him about many things, for they were plotting to catch him as something he may say. So the context of today's gospel, you have to put it in the perspective that right now, the Pharisees, the scribes, they're plotting. So you now see Jesus with a great crowd. The gospel today started, now this is chapter 12 of Luke. So there were many people crowding together, and they were trampling on one another. So, my God, I could just imagine they were just on top of each other, and they were walking and trying to follow it and see what Jesus is saying and doing. And it says Jesus began to speak first to his disciples. So now he's specifically targeting from the crowd his own disciples. Of course, the apostles would be among them. So now he's targeting this from the Pharisees and scribes plotting against Jesus to now the necessity of Jesus to address the disciples with what we just heard. Now, put yourself in that phenomenon, and I'm sure many times you've experienced this, where let's say I'm on a crowd and all suddenly, let's say me and Dave are over here, and you're over there, and me and Dave, I started doing this with Dave. And we're looking at you and pointing at you. Just doing that, notice the feelings that are rising within you. So what are they saying about me? What's going on there? Why are they pointing the fingers at me? They're looking at me. And And naturally, your own insecurities are activated. Your own fears are heightened. So what's going on? Oh my God, did they find out what I did? Because we all have things that we've done that we don't want nobody to know. Nobody's perfect here. So that insecurity that one of these days I'm going to find out about all my mistakes, even though they're confessed. I think that, oh no, this could be the worst nightmare. This could be what I always fear will happen. And now, from insecurities to fear, it just grows within you. And it may not be anything. Maybe they were not pointing at you. Maybe behind you there was the crack of the curtain there, and I'm telling Dave, hey, we gotta fix that door over there. I don't like how that looks, and it's a mess, and it just looks tacky, and we're pointing that way, yeah, but it was not you, it was the curtain and the wall that was behind you, and we were just talking about need to fix that. But that's it. All your insecurities, because they're pointing at me, they're looking at me, they're saying things in secret, and now you're worried because you're making a big, now you're thinking, oh, I need to prepare for this. And maybe tomorrow you're going to even come to the church because you're afraid that we will tell you something. Or even worse, you just change church. Now you start going to another church because they were pointing at you and they were talking. It's going to come out. Or we begin to act in very exaggerated ways, that things that may not be even proportional. Or I had nothing to do with you. But my goodness, you're now just fearful. You even prepare, man. Maybe instead of me just waiting for that to come, maybe I should attack first. I know things about him, and I, or if I don't, I need to find out. And now it's become a whole war that you've created in your own world based on nothing. But we all do it. Raise your hand if you've ever done that. So now let's go back to the gospel. So we finished yesterday with the Pharisees and scribes actually plotting against Jesus. So it is true. In this example, it's our own imagination going crazy. But let's say if it's true, worst case scenario, let's say all of what you're imagining is actually true, which hardly ever is the case. Maybe 10% of what we imagine actually comes true. The rest of the 90% just cause a whole storm in us and it never comes to be. But let's say 100% of the storm that you've built up in your own world comes to be. Now, let's go to the gospel. So first of all, Jesus is saying, hey, don't be worried about what's being said in secret. Sooner or later, all that will come to light. But perhaps that's what you're worrying, that what is in secret will come to light. No, I don't want people to know. What's my secret is my secret, like my privacy. No. And Jesus continues, don't be afraid of those who may hurt you here, may cause pain in you here. Rather be afraid of the one who has power in the afterlife. But then it's like, well, now you're creating more fear. Oh my God, not only will I go public shame, but God is going to punish me for eternity. I'm going to go to hell. Oh. And Jesus goes, well, okay. Be careful. And then this is how he starts the gospel, about this leaven. He refers to the hypocrisy of the Pharisees as leaven. But really, this effect of just me whispering, pointing at you, and then this growing into something that's leaven. Be careful of that leaven, of things that perhaps starts in secret, but causes the bread to rise within you. So careful. Just a few little things can really cause the whole thing to rise. So careful about that. So beware of the leaven. And he's referring to the hypocrisy of the Pharisees. They're plotting against him, but it could also be used for us. Be careful of the leaven within you. Because just a little bit, you can make it into a huge thing. But let's continue going. Jesus, I think about 3 times says here, do not be afraid. not be afraid. Do not be afraid. What harm can they do? Well, they could do some harm. But don't be afraid of those harms. Be afraid of perhaps the one who could really harm you. And then you always say, well, let me change that, because that may cause more leaven and more rising within you with fear. Once again, he says, do not be afraid. And then he says this, the famous, beautiful line here. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 small coins? Yet no one of them has escaped the notice of God. Now he's saying, look, God has not stopped noticing this, or God is still in control. Instead of causing this leaven within you, rising into a huge storm in your mind, in your imagination, reacting fearful, do you not trust that God is still in control? Even the hairs of your head have all of them have been counted. This is a God who knows, who orchestrates, who is in control. If they're whispering against you, God knows that. And I would dare even say more. God is allowing it. And if God is allowing something, and let's say there is evil being plotted against you, God is still in control. God knows it. God is allowing it. And we've come to understand that if God allows something, it's because through it, he's trying to get something greater. So why be afraid if people are plotting, conspiring against you? God is still in control. And God is much greater than the few that are plotting against you and wanting to do harm. But let's go even deeper, because this is Jesus Christ saying it. And Jesus Christ knows that they're plotting to kill him, and they will kill him. But Jesus also knows he's the beloved Son of the Father. And the Father is still in control. And the Father is allowing the plotting. The Father is allowing the eventual suffering that will come. Not only does the Father knows it, Jesus knows it, and he's putting fire into the mist so that it will actually happen. Why? Because it's necessary that it happen. Because after his suffering and death comes the salvation of the whole world, resurrection, being reconciled with the Father, entire humanity brought back to that reconciliation and communion with the Father. So don't be afraid. If people are conspiring against you, don't be afraid. God is still in control. And if he's allowing it, trust that through it, if it ever comes to be, which most of the time it doesn't, if it comes to be, even through that, God is working something greater for you, for the ones plotting against you, for all around you, and much more. So just do not be afraid. Careful about the leaven, because it quickly grows into something that never comes to be. But worst case scenario, let's say that your worst storm comes to be, even that is under the control of the Father. And if he allows it, through it, he's working something greater. Trust. Do not be afraid. So indeed, be careful about the leaven. It really quickly grows within you, but do not be afraid. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 small coins, yet none of them has escaped the notice of God? Even the hairs of your head have all been counted. Do not be afraid. You are worth much more than